service tight end we want to hear. You're a 3-down tight end. Full service tight end, you like getting on the end of that line and knocking somebody around?
It's not the best part about football. I like catching the ball better, but I'm definitely willing and able to do that. I'll be doing that at the next level as well.
Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to the 2018 NFL Draft Prospects 101 series, your guide to some of the biggest and hottest names in the 2018 NFL Draft. We're talking tight ends here on the program, and this next guy, he followed the blueprint of what has worked over the last 2 decades at the Combine. Light it up and watch your draft stock blow up. And that's exactly what Mike Gesicki did, Penn State tight end at the 2018 NFL Scouting Combine. And what in effect that has done is it has forced teams to go back, watch the tape, and see what this guy actually brings to the table. You may have been familiar with him before, but now you've got a chance to see just how explosive and dynamic this guy can be. And now all of a sudden, he's starting to hear his name be mentioned in the same breath with the first round. Don't think that's gonna happen when it actually hits draft day, but he's definitely coming off the board in day number 2, if not number 1. And this is a guy that he's shown the ability to catch it at Penn State. He's shown the ability to run at the Combine. Now all he's got to do is find a way to show that he can block. But nonetheless, let's talk about the pros that has a lot of people buzzing about Penn State tight end, Mike Gesicki. So the first thing we talk about when we're talking Mike Gesicki is speed. 4.54 40, which kind of falls more in line with what we saw from the tight end position last year. We saw explosiveness. We saw dynamic ability in terms of athleticism. We saw explosive leaping ability. We saw all kinds of athleticism on display in last year's draft. He would have fit in with those. Now, he still would have been probably 4th or 5th in terms of athleticism in the group last year, but nonetheless, he would have fit more in line with what those guys were bringing to the table than with this year's draft class at the tight end position, whereas he's the cream of the crop when you're talking athleticism. He shines above the rest, and that 4.54 was way in front of everyone else. His explosiveness that he showed, the 41.5-inch vert at the Combine, way ahead of the rest of the tight end position. And you actually got to see it on tape once, which shows you that it actually translates to the field. So the speed, the athleticism, the leaping ability, all of that stuff, it bodes well for him being able to be a playmaker at the next level. Pass catching. This guy can catch the football. Caught it really well. He actually was on my radar in 2016 when Penn State beat Ohio State. Probably should have been in the playoffs, but nonetheless, they won the Big Ten championship game last year, and I was all over, or 2016, excuse me, and I was all over that Penn State team. Saquon Barkley, again, another guy that got on my radar at that time, and Gesicki was another guy that I said, man, this guy's kind of impressive. And so I saw him catch it a ton then. I saw him catch it a ton more in 2017. Really impressed with what Mike Gesicki brings to the table from a pass catching standpoint. Quickness and suddenness. He's not the most sudden guy. He's a kind of straight line, up and down guy. Not a lot of wiggle, not a lot of shiftiness in his hips. And I think that's where last year's draft class kind of separates from this year's draft class. There's no wiggle with Mike Gesicki. It's up and down. It's straight line. There's not a great change of direction. But again, when you're running 4.54, and you've got the ability that this guy has to go up and get the football, which catch radius is the next pro. It kind of takes all of that out of the equation. And so this guy's quickness and suddenness, I think, is going to be just fine for what he brings to the table. Route running ability, again, not a guy that's going to break you off per se. I don't think he's got the ability to break a dude off like a Dallas Goedert or even Mark Andrews, who I think has a little bit more wiggle than people give him credit for. I don't see that in Gesicki. Again, straight line guy. He's a cookie cutter route runner, but again, with his athleticism, he's just gonna win off of sheer athleticism. And as he grows into an NFL offense and gets the proper coaching, he'll learn how to set guys up, how to stem routes. And I think he'll be just fine from a route running standpoint as well. Toughness, 22 reps of 2.25 You don't see it show up in the run game at all. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. But when you see it show up is him as a pass catcher. They forced it to him, okay? His quarterback, very comfortable, which you get with most quarterbacks. Really comfortable with their quarterback on 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6. Really, it's really comforting to know I got a tight end that even in a really tight quarter situation where there's a linebacker bearing down on him, I don't have any other options and I got to get rid of it right now and I got to zing it in there to him and I know he's going to take a shot. I know he's going to hold on to the rock. You saw that quite a bit with Mike Gesicki at Penn State. So there's a level of toughness, an element of toughness there when you're talking about this guy catching the football. Collegiate production, here's a guy that he got it done at Penn State, all right? He was probably, they had receivers there, you know, the last couple of years. One was drafted by Tampa Bay. In last year's draft, you would probably see another receiver, if not 2, drafted in this year's draft. After those #1 options at receiver, he was the next guy, okay, in line to catch the football, along with Saquon Barkley. So his production was really good over the last 2 years at Penn State. So you've got to like that too. If you're a Mike Gesicki fan and like what he brings to the table, his production at college is going to also lend itself to a guy that can come to the next level and have some success from that standpoint. Stamina, measurables, all of those are good things with Gesicki. 6'5", 247. He's a guy that stays on the field consistently. Again, most of these tight ends fit in line with one another from the standpoint of this guy's playing the bulk majority of the snaps, which is what I'm looking for from my tight end. So again, he does a lot of the things that you're looking for at the tight end position. And then he's a red zone threat. 15 career receiving touchdowns. Again, not all of those come in the red zone, obviously, but this is a guy that's making plays when it matters the most. When you get in the end zone, that's huge, okay? Don't care if it comes from 25 yards out, 30 yards out, or 3 yards out. I need to get 6, not 3. And if I can get it to my tight end and he can make a play, whether it's by separating from athleticism or a route that he ran, or separating because of size and just sheer ability to go up and get a football, which is what Gesicki can do. That's something that comes with the package that you gotta love if you're in the market for a tight end at the next level. So those are all pros for Mike Gesicki. His size, his athleticism, which we saw on full display at the Combine, which has a lot of people buzzing as we speak. His route running ability, the ability to catch the football, collegiate production, all these things are great. But there are some things that he's got to work on, and he's got to be dedicated to work at if he wants to really be a big-time dual threat tight end at the next level. So we go from his pros to Mike Gesicki and his cons. So obviously the big elephant in the room with a guy like Mike Gesicki is his blocking ability. We'll start with run blocking because it's atrocious. I don't love the way Penn State utilized him in either run or pass blocking sets and situations. I thought they put him in some disadvantage type positions, and these weren't advantageous situations for him to be blocking it out. In the run game, that's just Mike Gesicki needing to want it more than he did. That was a guy that you could tell when I played the cut at the beginning. That's just the guy that you can tell he simply didn't want any. He didn't want any of physical. I saw this guy mowed and mauled in the run game. And, you know, he was one of those guys that after allowing the guy that he was supposed to block to make the play, he'd just turn around and say, God damn it, and he'd just go back to the huddle. He didn't care enough. He didn't want it enough. He's big enough. He's strong enough. It's about effort. It's about want to. A lot of these tight ends weren't asked to do it that much in college. They don't want to block guys. It's not fun. It's not a glorious job. You don't get a lot of kudos for it. Okay, you're not going to show up on SportsCenter for blocking a guy and springing a 65-yard run. Or you may get a little bit of a mention from it on the telecast. And look, the people that matter, all right, the guys that are evaluating your game tape, your coaching staff, they're going to laud and praise you, but you don't get the praise and accolades from the fans for doing those types of things, all right? You only get chastised when you don't. But these guys don't love it. They want to catch the football. They want to run routes. They don't want to block. And you see that with Gesicki. He just doesn't want to block. And I need him to want to be a better blocker moving forward, or else he's going to be a one-dimensional tight end. And it's a shame because he's so gifted. You'd hate to see him be reduced to just being a guy that can only run routes and catch the football. That being said, Penn State put him in a lot of unsatisfactory situations. I didn't love how they asked him to block. They used him as a SIF blocker to come across the formation and block. They put him in as an H-back in situations. They'd send him in motion, and he'd be kind of back, giving a guy a head start to come at him and really put, and again, when I already don't want to block, I already think I should be out in the route on 3rd and 6, and you got me coming into motion as an H-back, 2 yards removed from the line of scrimmage, giving a guy an extra 2 yards to build up momentum and speed to ram into me. I'm not really looking at, I don't want that smoke, is what I don't want that smoke. So I saw a couple of olays from him on tape where he's just like, hey man, go ahead, do your thing. All right, I don't want any of that smoke. So I didn't think they put him in the best situations to succeed, but that's irregardless of the point. He's got to be better, and he just wasn't. As a run or a pass blocker, I saw a guy that, unlike Dallas Goedert, who I saw a guy that was looking to compete. I didn't see that competitive spirit from Mike Gesicki as a blocker at all. He just like, look, bro, you know that I know that you know that I know that we both know I don't want to do that. So let me go run routes and let me do what I do best. Well, he's going to have to clean that up at the next level. Awareness. I don't love his awareness as to who to block. He's one of those guys that 2 people run at him. You're like, hey, look, man, MDM, most dangerous man. Pick that guy, block him. If the other guy gets there and then he gets there, you can't block 2 guys at once. But stand there and do nothing isn't an option, okay? Even if you don't take the MDM, block the other guy then. Do something. Block somebody, get in somebody's way, but don't stand there and let both guys get to the quarterback or both guys get to the running back. With Mike Gesicki, there's times where he's just like, hey, look, man, what you want me to do? It was 2 of them. You know what I want you to do? I want you to block 1 of them, okay? I'm not asking for you to block both of them. I want you to block 1 of them. Pick one. Really, I don't care which one. I'd prefer it to be the MDM, but I don't care. Just pick one so that I know you gave a damn. So there's times where he just looks lost in protection, looks lost in the run game as to who he's supposed to block. He'll run right past the guy that's the most dangerous man on the play. Like, I don't care if that's not your responsibility on a run play. If there's an opportunity for a run play to be sprung for 27 yards, and all you got to do is block the guy that you come in contact with first or flashes first, then be a football player. Not because you are pulling and coming around and that guy should have been picked up and accounted for, but he's not. I'm just going to keep running up the field. No, if you see the guy coming free and he's going to make the play or at least impede progress, then put a hat on him. You don't get that out of Mike Gesicki. So his awareness isn't always the greatest when talking about being a blocker. Versatility. Because he's such a poor blocker, you can't line him up in line as a Y. I don't love him as an H-back off the line of scrimmage. And I look at him and I'm just like, he's really just a guy you flex. You know, whether it's in the slot or out wide. He's not a guy that you want having core blocking responsibilities that is integral to the success of a play, because he's going to get your play blown up. Before it even gets started, it's going to get blown up. And so he lacks versatility right now. And it can be cleaned up, but it's going to start with him giving a damn. He's got to be willing to put in the time, the work, and effort. He's got to care about it more. Right now, I don't see a guy that cares about it enough. So I'm challenging Mike Gesicki to want to be a better blocker, to actually put in the time and effort and look to be a better blocker, because everything else I think comes natural to him. There's a catch against Michigan where the catch radius is on full display. It's a situation where quarterback's under duress. He rolls out. and he just lets it go about 45, 50 yards down the field, and Gesicki and another receiver are down the field. I think it's Deshaun Hamilton. They're down in the same vicinity, and there's a couple of Michigan defenders, and Gesicki just goes up over everybody and comes down with the football. And it's that kind of play that shows you this guy can handle anything you throw at him from a receiving standpoint. It's the little details in the blocking and him giving a damn that you worry about. So that's Mike Gesicki for me. I think this guy has the world of ability as a pass catcher. Is he as good as Dallas Goedert? No, I don't think he's better. I don't think anyone in this draft is better than Dallas Goedert in terms of catching the football. And I'd even put Mark Andrews ahead of Gesicki as a pass catcher, if you want to be honest. But if you're talking about from a pure athleticism standpoint and a guy that can make some explosive plays and just running a simple seam route, Gesicki's your man. And so I just need to see him be more dedicated in the run game as a blocker in the pass game. I need to see that from him. If I could just get a little bit of that mixed in with what he already brings as a receiver, Gesicki's going to be a problem at the next level. But that's Mike Gesicki in a nutshell. Go to the website louietnetwork.net if you want to check out his score and all the other tight ends that I was able to take a look at leading up to the draft. And if you want to compare him to other prospects that I've already broken down, go to this website louietnetwork.net. I've got more tight ends to break down, so don't you go anywhere. Come on back. I'm your man, Louie T. Remember, if you haven't already done so, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and share it. It's much more where that came from. I'll see you next time. Have a good one.